Dave Mack, syndicated talk show host. So she befriends the mommy, the pregnant mom. She's like 8 months pregnant. Then she brutally attacks the new mom, cuts her stomach open, and takes out the unborn baby. What?
Today, we've got a doozy of a case from Worcester, Massachusetts, and let me tell you, it's a wild ride from start to finish. So grab a cup of your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's dive into the twisted tale of Julie Corey and the murder of Darlene Haynes. Our story begins way back in 2008 at the Southgate apartment complex in Worcester. Julie Corey and her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Alex Dion, were shacking up together. Now their relationship was about as stable as a one-legged chair, with Julie constantly accusing Alex of cheating on her. To make matters worse, Julie suffered a miscarriage while they were living at Southgate, which only added to the drama. Eventually, the two called it quits and went their separate ways. Fast forward to February 2009, and guess what? Julie and Alex were back together. Julie dropped the bombshell that she was pregnant again with Alex's baby, a little girl, and she was due on June 20th. But here's the thing. Their relationship was still rockier than a mountain range. They fought constantly about whether Julie was really pregnant, and Alex was getting suspicious because Julie wouldn't let him tag along to any of her doctor's appointments. Months went by, and Julie's supposed due date came and went. She kept feeding Alex different dates like they were going out of style. First, it was July 2nd, then July 4th. She even claimed she was scheduled for a C-section but got bumped off the list. Finally, she landed on July 24th. Julie was giving her friends and family the same runaround, changing the due date more often than most people change their socks. Enter Darlene Haynes, our victim in this tragic tale. Darlene was also a resident of the Southgate apartment complex and had briefly been Julie's neighbor. On July 23, 2009, Darlene was 8 months pregnant and ready to pop at any moment. That same day, Julie and Alex were at Alex's uncle's place, getting ready for Julie's alleged C-section the next day. They even packed the car with an overnight bag because apparently that's what you do when you're expecting a baby that may or may not exist. Later that afternoon, Julie headed out, claiming she was going to a friend's house. But then she called Alex and casually mentioned she was planning to give Darlene a ride to the store. Alex thought this was fishy since he knew Julie and Darlene weren't exactly BFFs. Darlene's landlord spotted her getting into a car with Julie around 3:30 p.m. that day. Later that evening, Julie came home but then left again to visit some mystery friend. Around 8 p.m., Darlene was seen at a package store near Southgate. And guess whose car was in the parking lot? None other than Alex's. From 8:45 p.m. to 11:20 p.m., Darlene was texting with a friend, saying another pal was coming over for a sleepover and that she was going to indulge in a wine cooler. In her last message at 11:20 p.m., Darlene said, "Good night." Little did she know it would be her last good night ever. Meanwhile, around 10 p.m., Julie started blowing up Alex's phone, complaining about stomach pains. An hour and a half later, she called again, saying her water broke and a friend was rushing her to a hospital in Framingham. A couple of hours after that, Julie announced she had given birth to a baby girl. Throughout the night, Julie kept calling Alex, whining about the hospital staff and threatening to leave against medical advice. During all this, the folks at Southgate were hearing some weird noises coming from Darlene's apartment. Between 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. on July 24th, neighbors heard banging sounds like someone was rearranging furniture. Then, from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., they heard water running on and off in Darlene's place. Despite being weirded out, the neighbors didn't investigate or call the cops. July 24th, between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., Julie showed up at Alex's uncle's house with a baby girl in tow. Alex noticed the baby had dried blood all over her and the umbilical cord was tied off with a string instead of the usual plastic clip hospitals use. When Alex asked about it, Julie claimed she told the doctor to remove the plastic clip because it was too heavy. Right, because that's totally a thing. Julie started parading the baby around, calling her bestie to share the good news and inviting a neighbor over to see the kid. The neighbor also noticed the blood and the weird string situation. Julie and Alex were broke, so the neighbor took them to the store to buy formula. Others who saw Julie with the baby that day commented on how small and cold the poor thing was. 2 days later, on July 26th, Julie and Alex packed up and moved to New Hampshire to stay with Julie's dad, but when they got there, Daddy Dearest said, "No way, Jose," and sent them packing to a motel. The next day, the couple hit up a welfare office in New Hampshire because Julie had been getting benefits for her supposed pregnancy. When asked for the baby's birth certificate or crib card, Julie was like, "Oops, I don't have either." Eventually, they found a shelter to crash at. While they were in New Hampshire, Julie started acting all kinds of shady about the baby. At a doctor's visit, she freaked out when the doc wanted to snap a pic of the kid and bolted before the doctor could grab a camera. Later, at the shelter, Julie was overheard saying, "Nobody's taking this child away from me." Spoiler alert, somebody definitely took that child away from her. Now, brace yourselves, because this is where things get really dark. On July 27th, Darlene's landlord went into her apartment to check on her pets and was smacked in the face with a nasty smell. In the bedroom, he found a blanket in the closet, and when he pulled on it, a leg fell out. It was Darlene's body, and it was a grisly scene. The autopsy revealed the horrifying details of Darlene's murder. She had been bludgeoned on the head, strangled with an electrical cord, and her abdomen was sliced open. Her reproductive organs were missing, and it was clear that her baby had been cut out of her. As the investigation unfolded, it turned out the baby Julie was parading around wasn't even hers. It was Darlene's biological child with her boyfriend, Roberto Rodriguez. Cops found no record of Julie giving birth at any hospital in the Framingham area. In Alex's car, they discovered a phony birth certificate listing Julie and Alex as the parents, along with documents about Julie's benefits and an appointment requiring her to bring the baby's birth certificate. Inside Darlene's apartment, investigators found evidence of a brutal struggle. The mattress was soaked with blood on both sides, and there were bloodstains all over the bedroom and kitchen. A Smirnoff bottle in the living room had Julie's DNA on it, and another bottle in the bedroom had her fingerprint. The prosecution argued that by July 23rd, Julie had lost her own baby and was freaking out. They said she was afraid Alex would leave her if she didn't have a kid, and that she'd lose her benefits. According to them, Julie saw Darlene and her unborn baby as the answer to her problems and decided to commit the unthinkable. But Julie's defense team had a different story. They argued that even if Julie took the baby, there was no proof she killed Darlene. They said there was no way Julie could have committed the murder, cleaned up the crime scene, gotten rid of the evidence, and taken care of the baby, all while constantly calling Alex. The defense pointed the finger at Roberto Rodriguez, Darlene's boyfriend and baby daddy. They brought up his history of violence towards Darlene, including a time he allegedly kicked her in the stomach and shoved her into a glass coffee table. Darlene even got a restraining order against him. One of Rodriguez's ex-girlfriends also testified about a time he grabbed her by the neck, dragged her into another room, and threatened to hang her with a belt. Yikes! The defense also brought up some other shady circumstances, like a witness seeing Rodriguez on July 24th walking away from a cemetery looking all kinds of sketchy. They suggested he could have buried evidence, like Darlene's missing organs, in the cemetery. Oh, and get this, when the cops first interviewed Rodriguez, he didn't even ask about the baby. Father of the year right there? But wait, there's more. The defense argued that the cops botched the investigation, by not following up on leads and evidence. They mentioned people were seen going in and out of Darlene's apartment between July 23rd and when her body was found, including a guy named William Davio, who a neighbor picked out of a photo lineup. Another neighbor reported seeing a dude named Tim acting super suspicious in Darlene's apartment on the night of July 24th. Turns out Tim was Timothy Tripp, a buddy of Rodriguez's. The defense also ripped into the cops for not searching the cemetery where Rodriguez was spotted, not looking into the transactions on a debit card belonging to him that was found in Darlene's apartment, and not tossing Rodriguez's place or car. They also pointed out that a bunch of stuff in Darlene's apartment wasn't even checked for fingerprints, like a lamp with a missing cord that could have been used to strangle her. But despite all that, the jury still found Julie guilty of first-degree murder on 3 counts: premeditation, extreme atrocity or cruelty, and felony murder with the underlying charge of aggravated kidnapping.
Susan, a very, very emotional morning here in court, and the victim's father had planned to address the court personally, but he just couldn't go through with it. He was so distraught, so overcome with emotion. Legally speaking, the family of Darlene Haynes now has justice, but they say what they have is just not enough.
Present what he wanted to say.
In front of a stunned Worcester courtroom, the ashes of murder victim Darlene Haynes were displayed during the sentencing of her killer, 39-year-old Julie Corey. Darlene's father, Frederick Haynes, explains why he brought his daughter's ashes to court.
See what she did to her, you know?
Julie Corey was convicted last week of the first-degree murder of Darlene Haynes back in 2009 in Worcester. Haynes was 23 years old, a mother of 3 girls, and 8 months pregnant at the time. After the murder, Corey cut out and kidnapped the fetus and claimed she'd given birth to the girl. All along, Julie Corey has insisted she is not the real killer. Darlene Haynes' oldest daughter, Jasmine, now 9 years old, wrote a powerful victim impact statement, which the judge read in court.
Julie, I think it was mean to kill my mom. I think it was very bad that you did that. Signed, Jasmine Haynes.
Throughout the victim impact statements and the formal sentencing,
orders that you be punished therefore by being confined for a term of your natural life.
Julie Corey showed little emotion.
To me, it's not enough. Even if they get in a bunch of jail, man.
That's Frederick Haynes there, Darlene Haynes' father. He told us this morning he has never met his now 4-year-old granddaughter. She is being raised by her father. By the way, she is named Darlene Justice in honor of her late mother. Live in Worcester, Todd Kiskiewicz, WCVB News Center 5.
After the conviction, Julie's lawyers filed a motion for a new trial, saying her original lawyer was incompetent for not calling a cell phone expert to testify about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. They also asked the judge to find her not guilty. The judge said no to a new trial, but tossed out the felony murder conviction, saying there wasn't enough evidence to prove Julie committed aggravated kidnapping. Both Julie and the prosecution appealed the judge's decisions. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ended up siding with the judge on not giving Julie a new trial, saying the choice not to call a cell phone expert was a reasonable strategy and wouldn't have changed the jury's mind. But they reinstated the felony murder conviction, saying there was enough evidence to show Julie hurt the baby when she kidnapped her. Finally, the court decided not to reduce Julie's conviction to a lesser charge, even though she might have had postpartum depression and psychosis. They said there wasn't enough proof that her mental state stopped her from forming the intent to kill, or that she acted on impulse instead of being straight-up cruel. So, there you have it, folks. The tragic, twisted tale of Darlene Haynes' murder and the stolen baby. Julie Corey's actions ripped apart the lives of Darlene's loved ones and left an innocent child motherless. Even though the defense raised some questions about the investigation and pointed fingers at other suspects, the jury still thought the evidence against Julie was solid. It's hard to wrap your head around what could drive someone to do something so heinous. Was it a desperate attempt to keep a relationship afloat and fake a pregnancy, fear of losing benefits, or just a sign of a deeply disturbed mind? We may never know for sure. But one thing's certain, Darlene Haynes lost her life in a brutal, senseless way, and her baby will grow up never knowing her mom. This has been the story of Julie Corey and the murder of Darlene Haynes, a case that shook the community of Worcester and beyond. It's a chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight and that one person's actions can destroy so many lives. And that's all for this episode of True Crime Legacy. I'm your host, Eagle, reminding you to stay safe, stay vigilant, and hug your loved ones a little tighter tonight. Until next time, keep seeking the truth and fighting for justice. Thanks for listening, and remember, you're all legends in my book, in my